Why are you here? I asked, taken aback by the unexpected appearance of my ex-husband. It had been 5 years since our divorce, yet he was making outrageous demands. Come to my parents' funeral with me. We're going to rekindle our marriage and I need you to be there. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I shot him a disapproving look and responded firmly, you and I are strangers now. There's no way I'm attending the funeral of your parents, who are just like you. I'm Nora, a 28-year-old office worker. After graduating from university, I dedicated myself to my career, steadily climbing the corporate ladder. I thrived in my work environment, feeling most alive when I was busy and productive. However, my life took an unexpected turn when I met Levi, who would later become my husband. Our paths crossed through work as he was employed by one of our client companies. Levi had an air of calm and gentleness that radiated throughout his surroundings. In contrast, I was known for my brisk work style. It was refreshing to witness him working at his own pace without any constraints while still efficiently getting the job done. As we collaborated on projects, we grew closer and eventually he asked me out. After about a year of dating, he proposed and I accepted without hesitation, deeply in love with him. Our families had connections and our wedding became a cherished memory. Following our honeymoon trip, we embraced the life of newlyweds. Both of us continued to work, sharing household chores with Levi's proficiency in cooking, honed during his years of living on his own, proving invaluable. This allowed me to focus more on my career, and I was grateful to have such a considerate and reliable husband. When I became pregnant, I wanted to continue working for a little longer before taking a 1-year maternity leave to focus on our baby. Levi supported my decision wholeheartedly. Our daughter, Samuel, was born healthy and beautiful, bringing immense joy to our lives. Levi's parents, too, were delighted by her arrival, frequently inquiring about when we would visit them. While I harbored no animosity towards them, their persistent inquiries began to wear on me over time. In the meantime, Levi proposed an idea to me. How about we move in with my parents during your maternity leave? He suggested. It's becoming a hassle to arrange our visits, and they can help with housework and babysitting. I pondered his proposal. That makes sense, I replied. We were living in a rented apartment at the time, so relocating was relatively straightforward. We could reside with my in-laws for a year while I was on leave, giving them more time with their grandchild and allowing Levi to assist his parents. I agreed to the plan. Levi wasted no time in approaching his parents, who enthusiastically accepted our proposal. We prepared for the move and settled into their home. Ella, Lucas, thank you for having us here. I expressed my gratitude. They welcomed us with warm smiles, and as soon as I handed over Samuel, they began doting on her. You're such an adorable little one, Ella cooed. Samuel giggled with delight, and they were exceptionally kind to her. I anticipated a serene and enjoyable time with my in-laws, but that perception was shattered the next morning. Ella roused me from my slumber rather abruptly. Betty, how long are you going to stay in bed? I hurriedly checked my phone and saw that it was only 5:30 in the morning. What's going on, Ella? I mumbled. What's wrong? You're staying here for free. You're obliged to make breakfast for the entire family. Don't forget to pack lunch for Ella and Lucas, too. I was utterly taken aback. Levi had assured me before we moved in that his parents would assist with household chores and childcare. Of course, I intended to fulfill my responsibilities as a housewife, but I hadn't anticipated a heavier workload than when we lived on our own. I had only gone to bed at 2 a.m. because Samuel had been crying incessantly throughout the night. Getting up and functioning at 5:30 a.m. was incredibly challenging. My movements were sluggish. Ella, however, paid no heed to my condition and berated me incessantly. Why are you so slow? You're taking forever. Move faster. Ah, you're so clumsy and annoying. I had never witnessed such a furious expression on her face before, and her demands seemed unreasonable. After all, it was my first time cooking in her kitchen, and I was unfamiliar with the location of everything. I couldn't comprehend why she was being so harsh. Then, as if she sensed my displeasure, she scolded me again. What's with that look on your face? You got a problem with me. I tried to maintain a polite and reasonable tone while explaining, no, it's not like that. It's just that I'm not familiar with this kitchen yet. Moreover, Samuel cried a lot last night and I only had 3 hours of sleep. I hope you can understand that. Ella sneered and retorted, I can't imagine what it's going to be like if you're like this from day one. Making up excuses and trying to slack off. You're such a deceiver, using your silver tongue when you're just a woman with a half-hearted career. But it won't work on me. Remember, you're the daughter-in-law of this family, and you'll obey everything we tell you. She ordered me to finish preparing breakfast and lunch boxes, then settled onto the sofa with a cup of coffee to watch TV. Soon after, Levi and Lucas woke up and joined her at the dining table. To my surprise, Ella began ranting about my inadequacies as a cook right in front of me. Lucas chimed in, "That's not good. We need to properly educate her." I was disappointed that he took her side and made such a comment. Initially, my in-laws had welcomed me kindly, and I had hoped that Lucas would be on my side. Levi was Ella's only son, and I suspected she might be jealous of my relationship with him. When Lucas started treating me coldly as well, it became apparent that my in-laws considered me an adversary. At that time, my daughter was still a newborn, and I was still deeply in love with Levi, so divorce was not a consideration. Levi had initially defended me, saying I handle household chores well back home. I thought if he continued to protect me, I could endure it. Besides, we were only living with them temporarily during my maternity leave. I believed that if I endured their treatment for a little while, there wouldn't be any lasting issues. I was incredibly naive. Their mistreatment only escalated. "Nora, why haven't you bought the snacks I asked for? Why haven't you cleaned the garden like I told you to? You're utterly useless and incompetent." Their demands were unreasonable, and their verbal abuse relentless. I turned to Levi for support. "Guys, please don't be too hard on her," he offered, but that was all he said. He reclined on the sofa, seemingly disinterested. I had expected him to take a firmer stance, but he avoided eye contact with me. My in-laws remained unyielding in their attitude, despite their son's mild warning. They continued to treat me like a servant and hurled insults at me whenever they could. Ella even said, "It's a shame Samuel inherited any of your genes. I hope she takes after Levi's side and turns out stronger. You should leave Samuel with us and move out." I couldn't bear their hostility any longer. How could they deny my identity so brazenly? They were becoming unbearable, so I turned to Levi for help. "Honey, can you please talk to your parents? Convince them to stop mistreating me," I pleaded. He frowned in response. "I've done everything I can, haven't I? You'll have to handle the rest yourself. I've heard you've been neglecting chores at home." A neighbor even mentioned how tough it must be to have a lazy wife. 343. I was taken aback by his comment. "Are you serious? Are you suggesting that this is all my fault too?" "No, but if you just behaved properly, Mom and Dad wouldn't have had reasons to complain," he retorted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I can't take it anymore. No matter how hard I try, they never accept me. Let's find our own place again. We've been living here for over half a year now. They must have had enough time with Samuel." But they flatly refused my suggestion. "Why would we move out?" Levi asked. I told them we'd stay for a year, and breaking that promise would hurt them. "So will you promise that we'll move out in a few more months?" I reluctantly agreed to endure it for a bit longer, hoping it would get better. I endured 5 more months of living hell, and when the promised year was up, I told Levi it was time to move out. I had secretly been looking at apartments during the day since we could easily move. I showed him the realtor's information, but he scratched his head and dropped a bombshell. "You know, my parents think we should just stay here forever." I was incredulous. "What? Are you serious? You promised we'd move out after a year. I can't believe you would break that promise." When I confronted him, he snapped back, "Just be quiet. I'm your husband. You better listen to me." Levi's sudden outburst, accompanied by his red face and loud voice, left me stunned. In that moment, my feelings for him rapidly cooled. I responded firmly, "Fine, I understand. Let's get a divorce." His reaction was extreme. "Divorce? Are you serious?" The commotion drew the attention of my in-laws, who rushed into our room, concerned by the yelling. They questioned the situation, and Levi, aligning with them, said, "Yeah, Dad, this woman wants to leave as soon as possible. She's been talking about divorce." Their judgmental behavior angered me, and Levi's agreement with them only made it worse. They berated me and suggested Levi divorce me, handing over custody of Samuel to them, as if it were a simple solution. Levi seemed swayed by their words, saying that actually makes sense. I haven't done anything wrong. Even if I refuse to divorce her, she's pushing me away. I'll go along with it. Let's file for divorce. He declared this with a sense of triumph. I left to prepare and returned home with divorce papers. Levi and his parents were baffled by the man in a suit next to me. I explained, "He's my attorney. I've been consulting with him for some time now. I thought things might take a bad turn, so I've been preparing for this." At the mention of an attorney, they grew uneasy and questioned my decision. I continued, "Did you really think I'd stay silent and let you all get away with it? I've recorded all the insults from Ella and Lucas on a voice recorder, and I've documented them on my blog as evidence. I've also kept records and proof of my consultations with you. I've brought all of this to my attorney, and he's assured me that I have a strong case against all of you. So I'm divorcing you and taking Samuel with me. I'll also be seeking alimony and child support for all the emotional pain and suffering you caused me." Their faces turned pale as they listened to my declaration. They clearly hadn't expected me to be so well prepared for this. Levi, seemingly realizing the gravity of the situation, suddenly changed his tone, saying, "Wait, honey, I'm sorry. Let's leave this house and live happily with just the three of us. I'll do as you say." However, it was already too late for such a turnaround. "You and your parents, the three of you, can now live happily together. If I keep Samuel here any longer, she'll be influenced by you all. I refuse to be with in-laws who enjoy bullying and a son who encourages it. I want you to sign the divorce papers now." My firm stance agitated Levi, but when my attorney mentioned that it would go to court if he refused, he reluctantly signed them. I secured custody of Samuel and escaped from Levi and my in-laws simultaneously. Levi was obligated to pay alimony and child support, but my revenge didn't end there. The evidence I had collected was sent to nosy neighbors and Levi's boss. As a result, the unbelievable behavior of my ex-in-laws spread throughout the community in no time. They were shunned by their neighbors, and Levi faced scorn from his coworkers. 5 years had passed quickly since the divorce. Then, one day, an unexpected visitor showed up at my house. I was surprised to see Levi, as I hadn't seen him once in 5 years due to his refusal to see his daughter. I asked, "What are you doing here?" Levi straightaway made a demand, saying, "I'll treasure things. Come to my parents' funeral with me. We're going to rekindle our marriage and I need you to be there." I was bewildered by his request and questioned why I needed to do that. He replied, "If you do, they'll give me a little more grace period." I still didn't understand what he was talking about. He seemed impatient and proceeded to reveal what had happened since the divorce. His parents had grown accustomed to me doing all the housework for a long time, and they had become too lazy to do it themselves. They eventually hired a housekeeper, but as an ordinary family, they couldn't sustain that lifestyle and resorted to borrowing money from a loan shark. Levi had faced rejection from female coworkers at his job and struggled with loneliness, leading him to make an inappropriate advance on the housekeeper, resulting in his arrest. He lost his job and had been unemployed for a long time. Meanwhile, the debts continued to pile up, and the entire family decided to flee in the middle of the night. Lucas, who was driving, accidentally lost control of the car on a mountain road, resulting in a tragic accident. His parents lost their lives at the scene, and only he survived, but he was left with a substantial amount of debt and mounting medical bills. The relentless debt collector eventually tracked him down, and he found himself in a desperate situation. Lucas proposed a plan to the debt collector, suggesting that he reunite with me, knowing that I had a good income and that I should pay off the debt at the funeral. However, I made it clear that his problems were not my responsibility. I firmly refused his plea, saying, "Please help me out. I have nobody but you now. Let's be married again, love each other, and raise Samuel together," as he begged on his knees. I glared at him, fed up with his selfishness, and firmly responded, "Enough. You and I are strangers now. There's no way I'm going to attend the funeral of your parents, who were just like you." Threatening to call the police, he panicked and walked away. I later heard from an acquaintance that he disappeared after the funeral, with no one knowing his whereabouts. I felt no sympathy for him because he had brought these troubles upon himself. I am now focused on raising my beloved daughter, who is growing into a sweet little girl, providing her with the best care possible.